What are you talking about?
So I want to say I was in a marriage where I helped open 3 businesses with this person. And I left with nothing when we divorced. I left with nothing. But in the Chinese, there's a symbol that is crises is also opportunity on the other side of the coin, right? And that is the very thing that took me back. I went and after that, I left. I got a master's degrees in clinical psychology. I became a psychotherapist.
Welcome to Inspiration Contagion, where we spread inspiration one story at a time. I am your host, Holly Jean Jackson. Each interview spotlights transformational business leaders, their stories, challenges, and advice for how you too can lead yourself and others through inspiration. Learn how you too can achieve peak performance, build more revenue, and lead the legacy you were meant to lead. Welcome back to episode 103 of Inspiration Contagion. This week, I have a delightful guest who's also a wonderful client of mine. Her name is Joan Butler. She is the co-owner and president of the Relationship Center for Change, which we all certainly need because relationships are hard. She is also a psychotherapist, dream builder coach, and life mastery consultant. Joan has supported hundreds of individuals through transitions in their professional and personal lives and relationships. Her refreshing approach as a coach leverages humor to help others learn how to think and feel differently, breaking down barriers so that they can cultivate more confidence, have more happiness and joy, and create an updated vision for their life. With that, welcome, Joan.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. I love your vibrant pink colors on this beautiful summer day.
It's so nice out too.
It is. Well, on that note, let's talk about some things that light us up. I want to hear what makes you such an inspirational leader, or what's your secret sauce?
Great, thank you. So I think what makes me inspirational is that I am very committed and dedicated to working not only for myself, but others through their challenges and obstacles until they get to the other side. And I feel very committed to that. Also, I think some of my secret sauce is really about listening to the two, what we call spiritual secrets, and that is longing and discontent. So our longing is sort of, pulling us towards something, and our discontent is taking us, going, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. And when we listen, our life gets better. And when we don't, it doesn't. So, I want to talk about a little bit about a few inspirational leaders that I always talk about in my programs. And so both in the past and more up to date. When I think of someone like Gandhi, who was early in his life an attorney, and he had bought a first-class ticket on a train, and because of his color, people were upset, and he refused to get off, and they actually threw him off the train. And as he brushed his 3-piece suit off, he said in that moment, he made a decision to hate or to love. And I think that is so powerful because every moment we have decisions that we're making that affect us. I think of Matthew McConaughey, who's the actor.
I wasn't expecting that one.
No, you weren't, right? So I love the way he talks about how he was the pretty boy and he was getting all these romantic comedies and he really wanted to do something substantial. And he said it was 2 years that went by where at first he was even offered more money to do those. And he kept saying, no, that's not my vision. That's not my vision. Until Hollywood basically forgot about him. 2 years later, after turning things down, no calls at all, he gets a call, and it's the movie that I think it's Dallas Cowboys that won him the Oscar. But he had to be willing to put a line in the sand and stand for his vision, and he did it. Nelson Mandela, He was sentenced to life in prison. He spent 27 years, got out, and became president of South Africa. Who does that? It's incredible. Then I think of Holly Jean Jackson. Holly Jean Jackson, who overcame several health issues and had a bear, not once, but twice, challenge her. This is inspiration when we hear these, and we all need these stories. So those are the things that I continue to remember when I'm going through, or my clients are going through things that seem impossible hurdles, because they're not. It's only how we think about them.
Yeah, well, first of all, I love this very philosophical but also honest look at those two conversations that we should be having and not ignoring. The longing and discontent, my goodness, so many people listening. I don't know about you, but I'd be hitting pause and be like, whoa, that was some wisdom that I need to listen to. And it's really interesting because I was talking to some folks recently on a river float, and we were calling it the breakup club because we were all going through a breakup, myself included, y'all. It's a journey. It's a journey. And so a lot of them were talking about this longing for that next relationship. And I mean, I get that, but at the same time, I'm just like, I need a break, you guys. So my point though is when you're feeling that longing for a specific type of client you want to work with, a specific type of speaking gig that you want, something that's on your bucket list, or as simple as finding that life partner, listen to what your heart and soul are calling for instead of ignoring it. It's the same thing as the fear method, face it, stop pretending that it doesn't exist, stop denying that you have this longing or this discontent. Instead, take some action for it and borrow from the stories that Joan just shared of how others have been there, done that, and overcome it to a better place that's aligned with exactly who they are. Love that. Super powerful words to kick us right off. Now, on that, I want to ask you, how would you specifically define inspiration, or what does it mean to Joan?
Okay, interesting. So I'm going to actually come back to what you just said. Okay.
Okay, do it. Let's do it.
All right, because this is really important. Because I'm a little bit older, but I've had some more experiences in terms of relationships, right?
I thought you just turned 21. What are you talking about?
So I want to say I was in a marriage where I helped open 3 businesses with this person. And I left with nothing when we divorced. I left with nothing. But in the Chinese, there's a symbol that is crises is also opportunity on the other side of the coin, right? And that is the very thing that took me back. I went and after that, I left, I got a master's degrees in clinical psychology. I became a psychotherapist. And it's those journeys that open us up to our own power and opportunity. Years later, I went into a 5-year relationship. And this was a good person. But they had past experiences that they weren't fully in. They didn't want to fully commit. I was ready to get married again. It had been years. I was there for 5 years, and I finally said, you know what? This is not all there is to life. It's okay, but it's not my vision. And I even had a sister that said to me, isn't this good enough? And it wasn't. But it was my cave. Joseph Campbell says, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. My cave was being afraid to be alone again. My treasure was about 2 years later, I met my husband. And after we dated for a while, one of the things he said is, I want us to be family. I want us to be family. And he was someone who had gone through breakups as well. But his strength for wanting the vision and the dream for a healthy, full relationship was as strong as mine. And that's what I wanted to connect to.
Yeah, that is power. I'm really glad you brought that full circle because it's so easy for us to listen to others for that
Exactly.
external validation, or they'll just say, "Oh, you should stick around, Holly." And it's so funny. Like I feel that certain people, we won't name if they're family or friends, but
Right.
certain
Right.
people in my life will say, "Oh, that's good enough, Holly." And I'm like, it's really not. And I'm the only person who knows what the right thing is.
Right.
And I think you're right. When we stick to our vision, we grow. And also, like you just shared, you learn from each of these relationships, but you don't ever have to settle. You really need to stick to that North Star and that compass of what's right for you. And only you know that. And
That's right.
whether it's business or your personal, intimate relationships, friendships, community, you need to have your must haves, right? And you need to have your boundaries and you don't need to settle for any of that. And so for me, that means I like working with whether it's business partners and especially intimate relationships, people that are whole people. Like
Yeah.
they see from a perspective of abundance, they have inspiration, they have high vibes. I like working with people where we can raise each other up versus people that anchor and sink you down. And
Exactly.
so for our business people are like, what does this have to do with business? Everything. Because if you choose the right people for your inner circles, for your business kingdom, as well as your personal kingdom, that's when it works. So,
And that's in every area of your life. Because I know one of the things you're going to ask me is about some other bumps in the road. Okay. And I want to say that this last year, I've had 2 hand surgeries on both hands. And afterwards, I actually came out worse. I would get up in the morning, I could not move my fingers. I was terrified. And one of the things that my physical therapist, my hand therapist said is, Joan, the more fearful you are, the worse the pain will be. And, part of our teaching is befriend your fear, befriend your fear. And I had a therapist friend. We're sort of like partners in believing. She said, Joan, go to the book. And I go to this book all the time. It's called Heal Your Body. It's Louise Hay's
yeah,
The
same.
Mental Causes for Physical Illness and the Metaphysical Way to Overcome It. So I went and I looked at hands, right? Hands is hold and handle, clutch and grip, grasping and letting go, caressing, pinching, all ways of dealing with experiences. And the affirmation is, I choose to handle all my experiences with love, ease, joy. So I'm from a family of 10, 7 siblings, 8 kids. And when I was 3 years old, my mom gave birth to twins that were 2 pounds, 4 pounds, and had major all their life serious physical and mental stuff went on. And I knew they couldn't handle everything that was on their plate. So I knew I had to handle my life, right? Until years later, I realized, I can ask for help. And I went and got my own mentors. But I have to say, a couple of days ago, I went to get an X-ray, and when you X-rays a piece of your body, they'll take and just say, okay, take your hand this way or that way. And so this hand was over here, this hand was over here, and he said, "Relax." I said, "Oh, I'm relaxed." He goes, "No, you're not, Joan. You're not relaxed." And this hand was mimicking the other hand, and we both started laughing. And it's kind of like when you're in the picture, you don't see the frame. So I needed someone else to say, no, you're not. You're not. You need to relax and let go. So those are things that if we're willing to listen and listen to our thinking, notice what we're noticing and have mentors and coaches in our life to guide us along when, again, we're in the picture and we can't see the frame.
Yeah, yeah. So just a couple of things I'll repeat before we move into our peak performance
Okay.
questions.
All right.
I love the befriending your fear because, yeah, the more you get afraid of things, the more the pain is worse. And I know this is true from personal experience today because as our listeners know, I had this year-long shoulder injury that's my latest thing, and it was better for the last 4 months. And then this last 2 weeks, probably from stress, my shoulder is acting up, and And it's funny, I've written a book on this. You would think I know by now not to go down the spiral, but that's why you write the book. You write the medicine and teach the medicine that you need. And
Yes.
so I am definitely in a spiral and trying not to freak out. So I'm aware that the fear is there, and I'm trying to embrace the curiosity from the fear method and activate the right mindset and advocate for what I need and reach out for support. But
Yes.
that's why you have to have your people. And y'all, this is the year of letting go. I literally have a tattoo on my arm that says let go, because even this lady needs constant reminders to let go, both on the wall when you're climbing, but mostly in business and life. And when you let go, you open up room for more things. But we could
For
go
magic,
forever on this, right?
for magic, really. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I'm all about the magic. So, Joan, speaking about magic, how do you define peak performance today, and how did you arrive at this definition?
Interesting. So, peak performance to me is when I'm in the moment and time stops, because I am sharing and loving what I'm doing. And that to me is when I know I am connected to source and I'm out of my ego. And that's when peak performance happens for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people would also, I guess, kind of sub-define as flow. So that could be for some of you artists doing your artwork. It could be for those of you who love adventure, like me, climbing on the rock wall or hiking outside, or for me also working with my clients. So that's
Yeah.
how, yeah, that's how you know that you are aligned and in alignment in your life, is when you find more moments of peak performance and, like we're describing, flow state. And that's also why when people come to me and say they are busy, you're not aligned when you're too busy.
Exactly.
Something is off. And if you're having physical things like I am right now, that's because we're in a massive growth phase, and it's my body's like, Holly, you have to make some changes. And hello, listen. And so
And
we're doing that.
isn't that so beautiful that you are listening to that? I mean, that you are really, really listening to that, before COVID, there was two offices, and we employed therapists, coaches, and interns who were becoming therapists. And one of the ways for peak performance was we would have meetings every week, and we would make sure that we were sort of in our, what do they call it, wheel of what we loved, right? And so some therapists would love working with kids or teenagers or small businesses or couples, right? But what we noticed is whenever they accepted and went out of their wheel of really genius and passion, they would lose that source, and they would not become as best performers. Yeah.
I'm so glad you're bringing this up. And this is why, for our small business owners and entrepreneurs, it's so hard, because you're expected to do it all. And a lot of that all is not what is your jam. It's not that superpower thing that you love. It's not why you started your business. And that's why you have to have experts like the work that I do with my clients and other partners that we have do with our clients. Because when you try to do it alone, you are not going to be in flow. You're going to be overwhelmed. And that's why right now, full disclosure, I am far from perfect. I am in a season where we are not totally in flow. We are to a lot of degrees, but there are some speed bumps and things happening where it's like, okay, you have to take action on that thing that you weren't ready to pull the trigger on. Now it's time. And my body's like, hello. But at least I'm more aware of that now. I'm like, great. So I need to hire a person for this particular thing as we scale and grow. And this is not sustainable. And being aware of that and having that plan and the community to support you through that is super, super important for maintaining peak performance.
Holly, it's so interesting because in the coaching, it's like we talk about the green growing edge, and that when we're in our uncomfortable zone, we are in our green growing edge, right? And if we're just in our comfort zone, we're not. We're just kind of camping out. We're not adventuring or climbing anymore. And that's kind of when we lose our juice, right? I mean, you working with me in areas that are not, oh, poor Holly, right? It's like, Joan, press this button. What button? Right? Yeah. And yet I have to be willing to let ego go, to be in an area that is my green growing edge if I'm going to grow, right? It's just, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up, and then we're gonna move into challenges in a second. But there's a class I'm taking for rock climbing that's called Strong Mind, and we talk a lot about how to manage fears and how to get out of the comfort zone. And there's stretch zone 1, 2, and 3, and then there's panic or death, right? And so obviously when you're rock climbing, you don't want to get to panic. You also don't really want to get to stretch zone 3, because then you're training and ingraining fear and eventually trauma. And so how this applies to business owners is like you were describing that green growing edge. I would say getting outside of your comfort zone and being in stretch zone 1 and 2 as much as possible, especially in your superpower areas of growth and genius. That's where you're going to grow exponentially. You're going to have more flow. You're going to have more alignment. You're going to be tapped into source, all the things. So it's all about that. But Joan, we all have challenges along the way. So tell us about, in that green growing edge and in growing your business, what were some of the biggest challenges and obstacles you faced?
Interesting. Well, I would say that during COVID, things really, really obviously changed, right? So we went from 2 offices with employees to basically home base, and the beauty is that we now love it. However, especially being trained as a therapist, we don't get on social media, right? And I know one of your questions is, where are you? I think, what is it? Where are you leaving money on the table or something, right? And I know that I was in my comfort zone in that I was stretching people out of their comfort zone, but I was also moving them from story to really dream building. And then there came a time where I needed to market. I could no longer leave money on the table because I was not willing to become visible. To stay in a zone where, oh, no, I don't do that. I don't go on to social media and just really, these are the services. I have a lot of experience. I have a lot to share, but I was hiding out. And so that's been my real stretch, is to not leave money on the table because I'm not willing to really share my gifts. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a big one for folks, especially in anything in the holistic or healing space. I've noticed that there's this challenge around being seen in that space. I'm not sure exactly what that's about, but there's a lot of discomfort in that. I've noticed business owners in that space have also had a lot of discomfort around charging for their services because it's healing and it's giving back to the community. And so that's something I've worked with folks a lot on, is helping them get into that stretch zone 1 and 2. And for some of them, that looks like just doing that first social media post, not even with the picture, no camera. And for some of them, that might be doing a Facebook live stream because they're ready for that step. But it's creating that roadmap and plan for each of them to kind of baby step into more visibility, baby step into being seen and heard. And I think the biggest reframe of that, though, that's been the most helpful is, so the pain that you're solving for people, you're helping them with relationships and transitions, which can be one of the most painful parts of their life if they're not being guided in the right way. Right. So I remember Sean Stevenson, who's no longer with us, amazing speaker, really transformational work. He invited this lady to come on stage who had a fear of speaking publicly. And he said, what is it that you help people with? What is the pain point? And she shared with the audience. And he said, everybody in the audience, if you need her help, come up one by one to the microphone and tell her why.
Oh, powerful.
So just reflect, Joan, on all of the people, all of the clients, all of those folks that you've changed their lives for the better. And if you don't visibly share and step into the limelight, all of the people you're leaving in pain simply because you're afraid of being seen and heard.
Exactly. Of showing up. Right. Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So it's like, we all need to sort of get over ourselves, in that green growing edge. And I teach that. And that's also what I'm continuing in my life to do.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And you
Yeah,
definitely want to see the people who are guiding you taking that right action and walking that aligned path. Otherwise, why would you work with them? So I'm
right.
glad you're doing that. So Joan, how have you, since you've had bigger offices, how have you guys created a culture of peak performance in your company in the past and today?
The path today. Well, I think that we both are challenging ourselves to go with new technology, to keep up with what's going on with AI, to be willing to, again, stretch out, be in our green growing edge. To vet people, like in terms of a lot of people that are, contract people. So we have to vet them, right? To create communities remotely, right? Internationally, right? This is really different when you're used to sort of a local community and then all of a sudden you're putting yourself out, um, one of my, I wouldn't say it was a fear, but it was like, how can people who in my own community, I know that I'm respected and trusted, but how do I gain that when I actually go out into a more international community and people, it takes time to trust, right? And this is a whole different modem. So for us, we need to continue to learn the things that are going to help us reach people that we can help. Did I answer that for you, Holly?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
I love that. And it's
Yeah.
really interesting that you shared that because when it comes to credibility in larger and larger ponds or lakes or oceans, as we look
Yeah.
at the international kind of analogy here, I kind of had this coming to Jesus or I guess awakening moment on a call recently. This person, we had a collaboration call. We were talking about referring business back and forth, doing a co-marketed event. And he said to me, Holly Jean, you know you're an influencer, right? And I was like, what are you talking about?
Yes.
um,
Yes.
and it's so funny because as you're doing and you're building out this path and you're building that community, you're building the trust, you're building the reputation, you're building the rapport, you don't think about like having arrived, so to speak. And it's so funny. It took me like 3 days to process the fact that I
Mhm.
am an influencer. I was like, what do you mean I'm an influencer? Well, yeah, I guess we have brands that pitch us all the time to, be part of the podcast. We have brands that want us to help market their stuff on our social media. We have clients that want us to make curated introductions. And so it's so funny. So I guess why I'm sharing this story is if you are taking steps for credibility, you're taking steps to be seen over time, you're planting seeds for 6 years from now, you're going to be an influencer. Literally, if you continue taking that 1% action every day, and you're not going to see it until somebody tells you, and you're going to be like, what are you talking about?
And I want to also just really chime in on that. You really are an influencer. I want you to really own that. I mean, you have influenced not only me, but so many people in the circle that you have turned me on to that are a really beautiful, amazing people that are doing some wonderful thing. And to be an influencer and a connector is very special. And you do that so naturally.
Aw, thank you. You're going to make me get teary. My goodness. No, I mean, I have to say, one of the most amazing things to date in my business is I have intentionally been working super hard to build my tribe. That's what I call it, my tribe. And when my nephew was in the NICU and I reached out to not just my friends, but my business brothers and sisters, I have never felt more supported, more loved, and more grateful in my life. And that was where I was like, wow, this actually has worked. And so when people say to me, you're lucky, Holly, I'm like, no, I'm really not. This is intentional.
Absolutely.
Everything that I do in my business, in my relationships, in my community, in my life is extremely intentional. And to kind of see that full circle and have that experience was one of the most amazing experiences I've had. And it has nothing to do with money or any of the things, but
Right.
that was really powerful. Yeah.
Because, this is something that um, you feel, since I even was first came in contact with you. I could feel your presence. I could feel your caring. It's something that you don't think about. You just feel, you know, you don't think
Yeah.
it, you feel it.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Yeah. It's funny. People come on the calls and they're like, I feel such peace and inspiration. I'm like, great. Those, I mean, literally every morning I meditate on my core values, and
Mm,
harmony and inspiration and love are three of them. So that's what you get every day.
that's,
Um, all right. Well, we could talk about this forever, but I also want to
yeah.
hear, Joan, now that you've pivoted from the in-person model to an online model, how have you transitioned optimizing your customer experience?
Ah, interesting. Okay, so this is a beautiful question, and I love what we do at the end of any program that someone goes through with us. We have, well, at the beginning, I should say, we have a breakthrough session, and it has several questions in terms of, where they are now, where they want to be, where their pain points are, what they've done in the past to try to help those pain points. And then when we finish the program, we go through an assessment form on the phone. And the first part of it is I ask them to evaluate their progress. Now, you have to realize through the whole time, I'm taking very, very copious notes on what they're doing in their progress, right? So they evaluate themselves, and then I give them feedback, because many times we don't really, we do a lot of things and then we don't even realize what we've done. So for me to say, this during this time you did this and this and this and this, it's important for someone to hear and see, oh my God, I guess I did do that. And then after we'd go through that evaluation process, I have them evaluate the program, the curriculum, and how the support that they got from me for coaching. And then what I do from each one of those assessments is I fine tune the feedback that I'm getting. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And really, it's so interesting that you shared the whole we lose track of the progress we're making. And this
Oh,
is why, for people that especially my clients that are really struggling and they're in a season where they're in a slump, I like to remind them to create what I call a jar of awesome. So you just create like a sparkly jar or whatever makes you excited, and you have it in a place where you see it every day. And every time something, even small, that's awesome happens, you have a stack of post-it notes next to it, a pen, and you write it down and put it in there. Because here's the thing is, people in business, there's so much you're doing, there's so much effort, and you forget all of the things you've done, all the seeds you have planted, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, like this actually is harvesting, it's actually working. But it takes such a long time, and we have to have those people, those mentors, coaches, those guides like Joan to show us, well, actually you did amazing things that you can't even see. Like you said, you're kind of in the film, you can't see the full picture. And
right.
it's so important to have people point that out and remind us to celebrate the journey and even the small things
Yes.
that seem small, because sometimes those small things are huge for
Are
us.
huge. And because there's the physical and tangible, but then there's the intangible, the emotional growth and development through it that everyone has to go if they're going to continue to grow and develop, right?
Yeah. And I love that you are obsessing over your customer experience and asking those questions throughout to continuously improve that process. That's how people stay relevant in business, stay current with their clients, create raving fans, and get referrals. So keep up the amazing work in that space. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we're going to shift to everybody's favorite, sometimes not favorite conversation, depending on who you are. We're going to talk about
Oh, you
money.
froze a little bit there, Holly.
Oh, I
I
said we're going
did.
to talk
Oh,
about money.
okay. You're back.
All
Okay. Okay. Okay.
right.
All right.
We're going
All
to talk
right.
about the money conversation. So, Joan,
Okay.
you alluded to this a little bit earlier, but can you share another time when you've left money on the table in your business and what you did to fix it?
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of goes back to what you said when someone said to you, you're an influencer, right? I mean, at times I've had to have people say to me, but you know that this is really what you do so well. Because again, when we're in the picture, we don't see the frame. And so I think that taking that information in and owning it as our, our area that we're passionate about, and owning it so we don't deny it, because if we deny it, then we deny it with our client. If we can't see the beauty of our own dream, we can't see the beauty of someone else's dream. When we can celebrate our own progress, then we can celebrate someone else's progress. But if we're not celebrating ourselves, we can't celebrate someone else. So
Yeah.
did that answer? I want to make sure I'm...
Yeah, well, sort of. So I'm going to dig in again, but yes,
Okay.
it sort of answers it. But what I like that you shared there is, yes, have like even small celebrations. Like when I close a sale, this is going to sound really silly. So
Okay.
my dog and I do a dance.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
I'll be like, Charlie, and Charlie will come in and like he knows what's up, and I'll start dancing, and then he'll put his paws on me and we start dancing together. I'm like, thanks, good luck, charm. So having like little rituals over, I mean, a sale is a bigger win, but even when I have a collaboration call with a prospective partner where we're going to do an event that's going to create amazing community and synergies, I put that in the jar of awesome, or I celebrate that. And every night I like to go to bed thinking about my 3 biggest wins or 3 biggest gratitudes and what I want to do the next day, because I go to bed with more ease and more excitement for the next day and more peace. And so the more you can shift into your celebrations, even when they're small, because they all build up and snowball into something really significant. But I'm not going to let you off the hook because you have not fully answered the question.
Okay, so say it again so I really get it.
Yeah. When have you left money on the table and how did you fix it?
Okay. Okay. Well, I think I'm pretty good, except for the visibility thing, of not keeping it on the table. But I remember early on in my career, I let someone just continue to accumulate their fees without letting them really like stop and say, let's have a conversation about this because you're not paying me, right? And I learned early on that doesn't serve them and it doesn't serve me.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah. And so I think that was a huge lesson for me as a really new therapist at the time, that it doesn't serve either one of us. Yeah. Because in a way, it almost says that, the source inside of you, no matter what it is, I remember, do you know who Michael Beckenworth is? Do you know, he's a minister in LA. And he said this, he's a Black minister in LA. This woman came up to him and said, oh, I really want to go to, he said it was like in April this, when it happened, and his seminar was in September. And just, I really, really want to go to your seminar over the money. And he said, wait a minute, you're a child of God and this is April? And you're telling me that you're in September, you're not going to be able to do this? In other words, it's like, believing in the person when they don't believe in themselves that they have it in them to do it, right?
Yeah.
So I learned from that time that I'm not serving. It's almost saying you're not capable when I know they're capable.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the investment when you ask for that sale, for those who are struggling with the money issue or the sales conversation, it's really not about you. It's about your client, and it's about them showing up in a different way. And when we have skin in the game and we put our resource into something that we want to transform, you show up very differently than when you don't.
That's right.
And that's required for success in that transformation most of the time, because it's just a very big step in that process. Yeah, that answers the question much more thoroughly.
Okay.
What is the next shiny object you want to turn into revenue stream?
Okay. So, where I'm at in my life right now, I've really thought about this question, is I don't want to chase anymore. I want to attract. So my big dream is to attract the referral partners that are sitting with my clients right now, knowing that they need support. So one of those referral partners would be like divorce attorneys, who they know that someone now needs to develop a new vision for their personal life, or someone in like a human resource leader in a company who knows they have this person who has great leadership potential, and they just need some mentoring and coaching. So those are two great referrals that I would like to attract.
I like that you're sharing that so we can hear and see that. And people that are listening, if that's you, we'll have all of Joan's contact information in the show notes and the YouTube links so that you can connect with her and you guys can make some magic and change some lives.
Love it.
Yes, it's all about the magic. All right, this has been a great conversation. We're going to wrap up with 2 rapid fire closing questions. What is the best one piece of advice you would share with others today?
Okay, well, I have 2.
Sounds about right. Entrepreneurs.
Okay. So one is a quote from Joseph Campbell that says, "Find a place inside where there's joy, and the joy will burn out the pain."
Beautiful.
The other one is from Eleanor Roosevelt. "The future belongs to those that believe in the beauty of their dreams."
I love it. All right. Powerful wisdom, y'all. And what is the legacy you wish to leave behind?
The legacy that I would like to leave behind is that who I work with, and even in my personal life, is I'm the woman that believed in your dream until you could believe in your dream enough to create it.
I love that. That's beautiful, Joan. All right. Well, I hope that our listeners took as much wisdom and encouragement and inspiration as I did from this conversation. I hope you got a lot of value from it. If you would like to connect with Joan, again, I'll have all of her social media links, her website links, all the things in the show notes. Make sure you hit pause and grab that if you're excited to connect with her. Also, if you love the show, please share this inspiration with others. Our goal is to spread this like wildfire, like a contagion. That's why it's called Inspiration Contagion. And thank you so much, Joan, for sharing your wisdom today.
And Holly, thank you for the opportunity, because whenever we have an opportunity like you're giving us on this podcast to really share with you, we need time to pause and really think about, how we serve. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Of course. All right. To our listeners, I will see you on our next episode. Thank you for joining the show today. I hope you were inspired. More importantly, I hope you take action. If the show inspired you, I ask that you subscribe and share it with your network. Let's spread inspiration together today.